There are 4 different types of slope. We have positive, negative. We learned about this one, this one, this one, and this one when you did the homework on pages 26 and 27. So you looked at the equation here, you put it onto the graph, and we saw what type of slope it would return. So I made a table, and I found the points from the equation here. And then I put them onto the graph. I changed the scale to count by 2 because it wouldn't have fit if I counted by 1. So now I graphed the points. I connected them, and I got a line that looks like this. If you ever see a line that is sloped up like this, we call it a positive slope. So now let's do the negative slope one. They say this equation, when graphed, creates a line with a negative slope. So let's see if this is true. So I put these values into the table, and I got points here. I'm going to put them onto the graph. And you should get a line that slopes downward like this. So if you ever see a line that slopes down, we call it a negative slope. Let's look at this problem here. This one is called undefined slope. And they say if we graph this equation here, we will see what an undefined slope looks like. So let's make our table. And let's plot these points. Now, if I put negative 2 into the equation x equals 10, that doesn't make any sense. They already tell me that x equals 10. So I can't use the values that we usually use. So I'm going to put the assigned values over here. Why? Because x is always 10 no matter what. That's why I put x as 10 5 times. Y can equal whatever you want it to be as long as x is 10. So let's graph these points. I plot the points and I get a line like this. So as you can see, the x value, where x is 10 right here, is the same for every point on the line. So every time we see an equation where x equals a number, we call this slope undefined. And anytime we graph a line and it's straight up and down, we call it undefined. So in this one they say we have a 0 slope if we graph the equation y equals 5, and it will look like that. So we set up our table, y equals 5, so I make the whole y column 5. And I make the x values the values we usually use. Then I graph the points. So if I graph the equation y equals, I will get a line that looks like this and is flat. We call that type of slope 0 slope. Or we can write it as slope equals the number 0. So let's name the slopes below. Remember we said if the line goes up like this, if I have a line that goes up like this, where did we see that one? We saw that one here for positive slope, right? The line went up like this. So we'll call this one positive. In the next one, we have a line that goes down like this. So let's look at our other ones. When we have a line that goes down like this, the slope is negative. So we call this one negative. Here, if we have a line that is flat, We look over here and we look for the flat line, which is this one here, and we call the slope 0. So on here, we would say this slope is 0. Next, we're looking for a line that goes straight up and down. We look on here, a line that goes straight up and down looks like this, and we call it undefined. Undefined. Now, why is a line that goes straight up and down called undefined? Because we don't know how steep this line is because it just goes straight up and down. There's no way of calculating the change in y over the change in x. We know the change in x here. We know the change in y here. But there is no change in x. So therefore, we can never divide something by 0, and we call it undefined. So to connect types of slope to the real world, if we look at a mountain here, so if a line is going up like this, if a line, think about it going up the mountain, we say it's a positive slope, and the line would look like this. So if I have a line that goes down like this, down, we call this a negative slope. And it will go down like this on the graph. So making the connection, if we go up the mountain, the line has a positive slope. If we go down the mountain, the line has a negative slope. What about if the mountain is flat, like this? We say that the line has a slope of 0. Hold on, that doesn't look like the word 0. If we have a cliff and it's straight up and down, the line would look like this, and we call it undefined. Now let me just mathematically explain a slope of 0 and an undefined slope. So a slope of 0, we know that slope is the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y here is 0. The change in x here is going to be a number. Let's call it 20. If I put this in the formula, I get 0 divided by 20. If I divide 0 into 20 parts, it's still 0. So that's why a flat line has a slope of 0. But for undefined, slope is the change in y over the change in x. The change in y here, let's call this 20, we can measure. But the change in x, we do not know. There is no change in x. So we call it 0. If we substitute these into the formula, we get the change in y over the change in x. You cannot divide by 0. You can divide 0 by a number, but you cannot divide by 0. Therefore, we call it undefined. So there's this thing called the slope guy, and this helps us remember the different types of slopes. So positive slope, the line that goes up, is his eyebrow. Negative slope, or the slope or line that goes down, is his other eyebrow. Undefined is his nose with a U underneath. And a slope of 0 is the mouth with the zeros on either side. So in your notes, draw your own Mr. Slope Guy so you can practice drawing him when you need him for the test. Then, On the next page, try to answer these questions. So given the graph, look at the graph, and then write the slope on the line. Positive, negative, undefined, or 0. Let's do the first few examples together. Here, the line goes up. If the line goes up, we call it positive slope. In the next one, the line goes down. If the line goes down, we call it negative slope. In this one, the line is flat. When the line is flat, we call it 0 slope. And then in this one, the line goes straight up and down. If it's up and down, we call it undefined.